So I believe this is the fourth class on net neutrality. It's taking more time than I originally planned, but it's okay. It's okay. This is an important topic, and there will be. Learning this topic will help you understand other topics as well. Before I forget, the script for your video is still due on the same day, which is November 17th. Now, the topics to be covered in the next week will be different from the syllabus, different from the announcement on the blackboard, because we spent 2 more lectures on net neutrality than I originally planned. But the schedule for submitting the script and the video, the final exam and review of those videos will go as planned, right? So we will shift the topics for classes a little bit, but other things like submitting the script, submitting the video, the final exam, and reviewing the videos will take place as scheduled. All right. Yes.
For the video's length, is 2 minutes minimum or the maximum?
What do you think?
Minimum?
If it's a minimum, you can submit something like 2 hours too, right? I don't want you to submit 2 hours worth of video. 2 minutes is the maximum. That's not a lot of time, but I want you to pack as much content in there to make it educational. On Facebook, the PR firms say that even 1 minute is the most people will spend time. 1 minute is the most time that people will spend on watching video on Facebook. So 2 minutes is even longer than that. So 2 minutes is the maximum. Did I said 2 minutes is the maximum, right? Isn't it clear from the announcement? Yeah, I think I said it should not be longer than 2 minutes. All right. No question? Okay. All right, let's go back to net neutrality. Now, toward the end of the class, toward the end of the last class, we distinguished the network operators from the content providers. Network providers provide the link between the computers. Now, content providers provide the content at the ends, at those computers that the network operators linked with one another, right? So in some sense, the content providers are also end users like you. And you are also a content provider if you think about it. If you run a blog, whatever content you upload there, you are providing for the whole public to view, just as Google, Facebook, or Google, Facebook is not really famous for providing their own content. Huffington Post, they provide their own content. New York Times, they provide their own content. So you are a content provider in the same way New York Times, BBC, or Huffington Post are. And In that way, I made the distinction between the network providers on one hand, or network operators on one hand, and everybody else on the other, right? Everybody else, including you, Google, Facebook, Huffington Post, everybody who are using the network from the end, right? Because at the ends of the network, they can provide, or we can provide the content. We can control what application to use, what content to enter into the network, or push through the network, right? So the network providers, will feel lonely because they feel they are being singled out and they are being prohibited from picking and choosing their own customers. While, you as a blog owner can pick and choose who can write on your blog. You know that most blogs give you power to delete comments that are left on your blog page, right? So you can pick and choose, and some blogs even allow you to block some people from viewing your content. Twitter, Facebook, those are microblogs. That's a form of a blog too. It's just that you have to write in rigidly chronological manner, and you have to write short. But it is still a blogging. And in Facebook and Twitter, you can block other people from viewing your contents. So you can discriminate the users of your content. Facebook, Twitter, Google, YouTube, Huffington Post, they can also discriminate who their users are as well. They can push back on some of the contents. We talked about nudity for Facebook, and we also talked about how YouTube discriminates against the music files, right? But network providers, they cannot discriminate. They cannot pick and choose their customers. They are under constant obligation to pass the buckets. Buckets being the data packets, right? And they cannot discriminate those data packets depending on the contents or who sent the data packets or to whom the data packets are destined. So, and most of network providers are also telecommunication companies. So network providers are telcos, telecommunication companies that are giving you connection on your mobile phones. And then there are cable companies, because now you can do internet through the cable lines. And also broadband companies. They don't provide cable TV, but you can do internet through those broadbands. Now these days, you can also watch TV through broadbands, IPTV. So the distinction between cable TV and broadband is being blurred. But what's important is that those three types of companies, telcos, cables, and broadbands, they form the bulk of network operators. And they argue, so they feel lonely because they are the only ones that are imposed this non-discrimination obligation. And they make an argument, hey, we need money to build the networks. we need money to, lay the copper wires or fiber optics between, all these houses, so that people residing in those houses can, access your blog, access Google, access Facebook. If we cannot discriminate, and we need to discriminate customers to maximize our profit, only when we maximize our profit, we can invest in building more networks. So if you prohibit us from discriminating, we'll not have money to build more networks. That's typically the argument that you hear from the network operators every time someone talks about talks about need for net neutrality. What's your answer to that? That they need money to build networks. Well, they do. And the answer is, yes, they do need money and they are getting paid. Because after they build the networks, they don't allow people to access the network for free, right? To use cable, to use broadband, to use mobile phone to access the mobile network, you are paying money. And you are paying a lot of money. How much are you paying for your mobile access, mobile connection each month? Okay, $50, 50 US dollars, about 50 US dollars. $7. 70. Okay, you must be using unlimited data package or something like that. Okay. That's a lot of money, right? I mean, if building the network costs money, they can recoup the cost by charging people for connection. Why do you need to discriminate the data packets so that the reliability of the communication network suffers, right? If you really need more money, just charge more. Don't discriminate between data packets, because your uniform processing of data packets that people at the ends of the network rely on. Okay? That's the argument. That's the argument and counter-argument. Now, another issue is throttling. Throttling is sending the data. So we talked about blocking data packets, right? But there's another form of discrimination. The network operators can still send particular data packets, can still pass the data package to the next router, but they do it at a slow speed. That's throttling. So it's not as bad as just blocking certain data packets, but it's still discrimination because they are treating certain data packets disfavorably compared to other data packets, right? Now, that's throttling, and throttling is also a no-no under net neutrality. But there is one exception. All network providers are already favoring voice data packets and video data packets compared to email packets. The reason is that the voice packets, if I say something for 5 seconds, that will be broken into like many data packets and then sent over the network. Some packets take one route to get to the destination. Other packets go another route to arrive at the same destination. And the application at the end, the transport protocol at the end, the transport layer later assembles these data packets so that the 5 seconds of my voice are heard by the receiver, heard by my conversation partner in a seamless manner as 5 seconds, right? But if some packets out of all the packets constituting the 5 seconds of my voice are lost or are delivered later, right? Delivered even like few seconds later, the person hearing my voice will not be able to understand what I'm saying, right? It's like if I said I went to school, and if the data packet corresponding to went, right, is delivered later, the person will hear I to school when, which will not make sense to the hearer of my voice. So for voice conversations, and also in video as well, it's important that once the receiver starts watching something, once the receiver of the video or voice starts watching something, the packets come reasonably close to one another so that they can be enjoyed, they can be viewed or heard by a partner or by the receiver in a seamless manner. That's why there is a buffering, right? Buffering is the time that the end computer, the destination computer, waits for all the packets to come in. And only after the packets are assembled, they can start watching the video or start listening to your voice. But if buffering is too long, it's too boring, right? So all network providers, when they see a video packet or voice packet, they make sure that it gets delivered earlier than email packets, because email packets, when you send an email, you don't expect the email to arrive instantly at the destination, right? You write an email because you think that there is a reasonable time for your partner to respond or your partner to read your email. If you want it to be read instantly, you would have done something else, like WhatsApp or KakaoTalk, other things. So, but outside that unequal treatment between voice video packets, unequal treatment favoring voice and video packet, sending the information sending certain data packets at a slower speed also constitutes net neutrality violation. Okay. Next. Now I'm going to talk about what's not a net neutrality violation. Okay. Keeps going off. 저걸 좀 주세요. 예, 예. So I'm going to start talking about what's not a net neutrality violation. Now, some users use traffic much more than others because their contents are simply more popular than average users. So for instance, let's say I opened a blog page, and if too many people visit my page, the server hosting my blog page will not function properly if too many people try to access it at the same time. For the obvious reason, right? You saw how the internet works, right? The data packets are basically electric voltage that are placed on wire, and to make sure that they don't collide with one another, each data packet, in traveling has to occupy the entire medium, right? And the entire medium, it's not that long. The entire medium is just one, maximum length is 500 meters. And that 500 meter loop, so there are many, many 500 meter loops around the world that are connected to each other, and that's the net, that's the internet. Now, so because when the electric voltage travels through the wire, it has to occupy the entire medium. If too many data packets are sent over, then there's just not enough time to send all the data packets in an efficient manner. So for those users, that generate a lot of traffic, for those end users who send a lot of data out to other users and receive a lot of data from other users, when they purchase their connection to the network, right? When they purchase their connection to the network, do they have to pay more, or they can pay the same amount and just expect the full service, expect the same service from the network provider? Now, one such heavy network user will be Netflix, right? So in the network, there are a lot of users, end users, and then there is another end user, Netflix. And there is a much more traffic, coming through, much more traffic trying to access Netflix, and a lot of traffic going from Netflix to the end users. Will they need bigger pipelines than other users? Than average individual user? Of course, they'll need bigger, because they are sending out more stuff, they'll need bigger pipelines, right? So, same thing, I mean, if, well, you can think of it this way. I mean, in the internet, there is no center, right? So, let's start with the next video. Let's start with the, okay, interconnections. ISP is an internet service provider. It's another name for network provider, okay? So ISP is the, ISP are the network providers that provide access to the internet. Okay. Now that's why they're called ISPs. Now, let's say one ISP has 1 million subscribers. Another ISP has 10 million subscribers. Meaning, on the network they built, on the networks that they built. On one network, there are 1 million people attached, and on another network, there are 10 million people attached. Let's say two ISPs want to make a connection. We call that interconnection. Let's say they make a deal so that the end users the subscriber to one ISP can send data directly to the subscriber to another ISP. I mean, before the interconnection agreement, for one subscriber in ISP A, for a subscriber in first ISP to send data to a subscriber in the second ISP, the data had to go to neighboring network, another neighboring network, and travel all around the world, and then finally arrive at the second ISP's network, right? Now, and vice versa, for data to travel from one user in the second ISP to travel to one user in the first ISP, it also had to make worldwide trip to arrive at the destination. So, it just takes too much time. So people thought that, so two ISPs decided that they'll just make direct connection with each other so that data can travel back and forth directly between the users of two networks. Okay? Who do you think will pay money to enter into that interconnection agreement? The one with the 10 million or the one with 1 million? Who will benefit more from, whoever will benefit more will be paying, right? Because since you have more to benefit from this deal, you'll be willing to pay money to make sure that the other party enters into the agreement, right? So let's say there's a 10 million subscriber ISP and there's a 1 million subscriber ISP. If they make a direct connection deal, who do you think will benefit more and therefore will make payment? 10 million or 1 million?
10 million will pay for 1 million.
Okay. Same? They all benefit? Well, they all benefit from each other, but somebody benefits more, right? Okay, why do you think 10 million, the ISP of 10 million subscribers will pay?
Because 1 million, he will not care a lot to deliver the data for 10 million, unless 10 million pay to them something bigger.
But you can say the same thing about the 1 million people, right? They wouldn't, right? I mean,
But 10 million, like, since they are more than 1 million, they need someone to deliver the data than 1 million need 10 million.
I mean, the subscribers, they are already paying basic subscription fees to the ISPs. I'm talking about where how the money will, I mean, who will pay, I'm talking about, who will make payment between the ISPs, between the network operators. One has 10 million subscribers and one has 1 million subscribers. 1 million will be likely to pay, right? Because by attaching to the bigger network of 10 million, now the users can, there was a tenfold increase, 10 times increase in the number of people that, that network's users can communicate with directly, right? Now, you can take that to extreme. Right? See, I mean, yes, there is a mutual benefit. Yes, now the 1 million people have 10 million more people to communicate with directly, but also 10 million people have 1 million more people to communicate with directly, right? But who benefits more relatively to the network? Right? 1 million people. Now, because they'll have 10 times more people to communicate with. Right? Because that much benefit is given to their users, if that ISP, if the 1 million, if the 1 million subscription ISP is in sound mind, is in the right mind, it will want to pay for the connection to 10 million so that their users can now benefit from direct connection with 10 million more people, right? Now, you can take that to an extreme. If I connect to a network, okay, if I pay for cable subscription or broadband subscription, it's not just me who benefits. 7 billion other people, well, okay, not all the 7 billion people are connected. About 2 billion people are connected to the internet now. If I connect to the internet, it's not just me who benefits, also 2 billion other people can also benefit from my purchase, right? Because they can now also send data to me, right? So the benefit is mutual, but who benefits more? I benefit more, right? Whatever extra benefit that 2 billion existing users receive by me being connected is minuscule. But for me, now I can talk to 2 billion more people, right? Directly. That's why when you connect yourself to the net, you pay money. Even if that means it is beneficial not just to you, it's beneficial to all other existing users, because now they can also send data to me, right? You see why you are paying money, although that's why you are paying money when your subscription helps other existing users as well, right? Okay. And then let's go back to the Netflix issue. So same thing with the Netflix, right? If Netflix, of course, has a lot of users, but probably, less users than 2 billion. Okay? So let's say Netflix wants to connect to the network. Yes, Netflix users will benefit. Yes, Netflix will benefit because now the existing users can watch Netflix. But also Netflix benefits because now they can, send their films, they can sell their films, movies, to the 2 billion existing users. Who benefits more, right? That might be a little bit tricky question depending on how much you value watching movies, right? Some people hate movies. For them, they don't care whether Netflix is connected, if they can watch Netflix or not. And it will also depend on how much Netflix values its users, right? Netflix may not value being connected to, it may not be all that profitable for Netflix to be connected to a country that's so poor that there's no user willing to pay for watching movies on Netflix. By the way, I don't think there is such country, but theoretically, right? But whoever pays, who makes payment for the connection is not what's important. What's important is that whoever pays for connection will be making payment for good reason. Because they see the benefit in being connected to the network. Okay? It is a market response. And what ends up happening is the big content providers, because they are connecting with, because they want to send out more data to people, they'll usually pay more to get the connection. They'll just get connection with a greater capacity. A good metaphor will be just using greater pipelines in getting water. If you are receiving water and if you are using a lot of water, you will want to use, bigger pipeline and just pay for more, right? And Netflix does the same thing. They pay more than what you pay for being connected because they send out more data at any given second than you are. And there are more people connecting to the Netflix site than there are people connecting your site, right? So the end result is that it is perfectly normal to pay more to send more data out. Why are we talking about this? Well, because some people believe that paying for connection is also net neutrality violation. That Netflix, by making more payment, they can send more data out, right? So if Netflix didn't make that extra payment for greater pipe, then the data will travel much slower, right? Because they made the payment to use the bigger pipe, all the data can travel at a reasonable speed. So that means that, the data packets that are backed by Netflix payment is receiving, it looks like the data backed by Netflix payment is receiving favorable treatment. But that's not really favorable treatment. It's like you paying for your connection. See? I explained why you pay money when you connect yourself to the network, right? Let's say you don't make payment. Well, the data will not travel to you, and data will not travel from you to other people either. So, depending on whether you make the payment, you are being discriminated, right? But we don't call that a net neutrality violation, because that is a perfectly normal market transaction there. You are making payment because you are benefiting more from that connection. And the fact that you can buy that connection, the fact that your data now travels through the network because you made a payment for the connection, doesn't mean that your data is being prioritized. Doesn't mean that your data is being favored over other data. Okay? It just means that you paid for connection and the network is treating all the data equally. And because the network is treating all the data equally, because it's being treated equally, you have to pay first batch of money to even get connection and pay more if you are sending more data out. Okay? So, trying to tell you is that buying and selling connection is not a net neutrality violation as long as the network operator in the middle is not treating one data packet more favorably than other data packets in any systematic, in any affirmative manner. Now, second thing that's happening is sometimes some users will pay to use greater pipelines. Now, other users will pay to move their connection points to more strategic places. It's called the CDNs. Okay. Okay, there are some let's look at the diagram together. Okay, here we go. So, now look at the blue dot where the United States is, right? I mean, where it's near New York there. Now, let's say the user hosts or stores all the data on the red dot there. Now, for people like in Europe, or for people in North America or South America, for them to connect, they can just connect directly to the red dot there, right? But, well, okay. Okay, look at it this way. There's a red dot there, right? And let's say these blue dots don't exist. The blue dots, they don't exist. Okay? Now, if the blue dots don't exist, for people to connect, for instance, like somebody in, Brazil, wants to connect to the red dot there, the data will have to travel that much distance between, let's say that's Washington, D.C., the distance between D.C. and, let's assume that's Rio. The distance between Rio and D.C., that's far, right? Now, to save the distance, to shorten the distance, you can choose to make a copy of the same data and host that copy in the blue dot there, right? Then the person here in South America, when they access the data, they don't have to make connection all the way to the one in DC. They can just get it from the nearby server, right? So the content providers who want people in different parts of the world to access the same data, they form this network. They form this network of servers, represented by the blue dots here, that all host a copy of the same data, so that people in different parts, they can get the data without having to make a long remote connection all the way to the home server in Washington, D.C. That's a CDN. And it's called the Content Delivery Network because it's a network of servers set up so that content is delivered efficiently to all the different remote parts of the world. Okay? Now, it will be great if it'll be great if this CDN, if you set up this CDN, but if you don't have a CDN, what do you have to do? If you don't have money, let's say you are just individual user and you are just running one blog, and you don't care, people in Johannesburg can access your blog page efficiently. As long as they can, access it, you don't care, right? So you don't have a content delivery network for your blog page, right? But what if you want to set up CDN Or what if you want to use CDN that's set up by somebody else and rent the use of the CDN? You can either pay money, you can either spend money to buy offices and servers in different parts of the world, or you can make payment to existing CDN provider, right? Because there are companies that set up these server networks and get paid for making it available to whichever user, right? So paying for connection, and that is paying for location. That's more like paying for location, right? By having one extra server, one copy server, it's called one edge server in here. Now, you can serve people in Australia much more efficiently than when you didn't have extra server here. And to attach that extra server, to set up one extra server there in Australia, you, the content provider, will have to pay yet more money, right? Because if you just set up a server there, if it's not connected to anything, it doesn't help you, right? You set up a server and then you want to attach the server to the local network, to the local ISP, right? And when you attach to local ISP, who do you think will pay money? Do you think that local ISP will pay you so that you can connect to them? Usually local ISP has many more subscribers, right? So if you have just one lone server and you want to connect it, although the local users can also benefit by being able to access the content on your server, usually the theory is that you are benefiting a lot more because now you can serve all those people who, all the pre-existing users connected to the local network, right? You are benefiting more, and you will have to make payment, and that is what I mean by buying locations. Okay. So buying connections and buying locations does not require the network operators in the middle to look at the data packets and send one faster and send the other slower. It doesn't require them to discriminate between packets. Assuming that they are treating all the data packages equally, some users, because of their capacity and because of the demand for their contents, they either buy greater pipes, right? Or they buy more strategic locations by attaching servers, by attaching copy servers in different parts of the world. So buying connection, buying location is not net neutrality violation. If you did the reading, you will understand why this is important and why this is very important for digital economy right now. So do your reading. Now, I said we're going to do a debate, so we're going to do a debate. About what? Well, about this. Zero rating. Okay? Okay, what is a zero rating? Well, not charging money some data packets while charging money on all other data packets. It's called a zero rating because you are not charging any money for processing certain data packets. Okay? So for instance, if you are a T-Mobile user in the US, even if you are watching Netflix on your mobile phone, you will not be charged any money. In other words, usually when you buy a mobile phone, when you buy a mobile connection, it comes with a data cap. And the data you use to access Netflix will not be counted against the data cap that you purchased. Okay? That's a zero rating. Now, some people like it, some people don't. Now, what Facebook did was this. Now, Facebook is not a network operator, so it cannot do zero rating itself, because when you say zero rating, we are talking about rate charged by a network operator. And Facebook, is Facebook charging you any money? No, right? There's nothing to zero, right? There's nothing to zero rate. What they did was this. They thought that there were many more people who could be their customers than there are now in India, because India has a lot of people there, right? And they wanted to increase the number of Facebook users, but then they realized there are so many people not connected to the internet at all. If you're not connected to the internet, you cannot get on Facebook, right? Usually, the content providers like Facebook will just wait until the number of internet connected people increases, but Facebook didn't want to wait. They wanted to increase the number of users fast. So what they did was they formed an agreement with a local telecommunication company, a local telco. And that telco offered mobile service whereby people can access not the full internet, but just the Facebook free of charge. Okay? Now, that's good for Facebook because now it will get more users, and all the people who are buying that service will be Facebook users, because there is no other service that those users can connect to for free, right? If you buy the mobile service from, if you buy that free basics mobile service, yes, it will come with some data service as well. It will come with some data. If you are using Facebook, if you are using Facebook using that data, you are not being charged that money, and your data usage is not charged against your data cap. Only when you are going out of Facebook, now you are charged for use of the data. Okay? Now, if you have a choice between, say, Facebook and Twitter, if you use Facebook, you're not going to be charged for data usage. If it's Twitter, you'll be charged for data usage. Which one do you think you're going to use? Facebook, right? So it was in Facebook's interest to do this. What was the interest of the telcos? The telco providing the free basics service. Well, before free basics was there, people did not use mobile internet, right? But now people they cannot do the full internet, but they can at least to get on Facebook. So now they'll want to use the internet. Okay? So now they'll, pay for. Now they'll buy the internet service from this particular telecom company. Now, if they buy service from other telecom companies, they had to pay for all the data usage even when they are using Facebook, right? But if they use this particular telecom, they're not going to be charged for being on Facebook. Now, there's an estimate that 20% of the time that you use on internet is being used on Facebook. Okay? So if I'm a mobile user in India who never had access to the internet, but now want to have a taste of the internet through Facebook, right? If I can do that for free, why not? Right? I mean, all your friends use only voice communication through mobile phones, but I can do Facebook for free just by changing my telecom from this all other telecoms to this one particular free basics provider. I can now use not the full internet, but small slice of the internet called Facebook. Right? So, that telecom company is called Reliance. So Reliance can use that as a carrot, as an incentive to, bring in more customers for themselves. Right? And in doing so, they said, hey, if we do this, we can increase the number of people who are connected to the internet. Not the full internet, but at least a little bit of the internet. 20% of the internet, Facebook. And not just Facebook, we'll add something else, like Wikipedia, right? Or we'll add Google, because people do a lot of Google search. We'll add the Huffington Post because they have a lot of valuable information. So that way, these poor people in India who couldn't afford to connect to the network can now connect to part of the internet. So we are giving more power to the people. We are creating more education opportunities, through online to the people. So this is something good. Now, many people in India, especially civil society organizations, hated that. They thought that it was for the self-interest of the two organizations, Facebook and Reliance. And long term, it hurts the people because people will be, if people start out using the internet, if people start out with the internet using Facebook, then they'll just continue to use Facebook. They'll be conditioned into believing that, Facebook is the internet, and they will, their consumption patterns will be, distorted. Facebook and Reliance argue that, hey, it's better than not having the internet at all. These people are so poor, never had a chance to experience the network, experience the power of the network. But by these free services, that's why it's called the free basics, because they can access basic services like Facebook, Google, and Wikipedia for free. That's why it's called free basics. So they make an argument like, okay, here's an area that doesn't have water. People are thirsty. The only thing we have is, instead of water, Coca-Cola. What's wrong with providing Coca-Cola? Yes, that's not, all types of liquid. That's not all types of thirst quenchers. But it's one way of quenching thirst. the civil society countered saying, hey, even that will condition people into, liking Coca-Cola. What's more important is building, water pipelines so that people can get water, right? The same thing with the internet. The companies and especially telecoms have to invest more money in building the mobile network so that people can access the internet at a cheaper price. They shouldn't go around with this cheap way of providing just small slice of the internet. If you do that, now there will be less incentive to build the real network, the more efficient network that people can access at a cheaper price. So, all right, we don't have more time, but okay, let's split the class right here. I'll split you two. The one on the left argue for free basics. The one on the right against free basics. All right, debate. Yes. You are arguing for free basics.
Not against.
Oh, you are arguing against. Sorry. Yes, you are arguing. Yeah. Okay. Okay, come on up. Actually, we are running out of time, so let's make it quick. Okay.
I think free basics is valid net neutrality because, first of all, free basics promotes capitalism since Facebook and the internet companies are the ones that are only benefiting from it. And second, it's only restricting, it's violating the net neutrality laws because it restricts the people, just like what the professor said previously. People got restricted knowledge and what they're supposed to know instead of like a freedom of like what they're supposed to be knowing or what they want to know.
Okay. Okay, you want to finish?
Like, so in other words, they're like trying to know, oh, this is right. You can't know more. You're just very limited.
Okay, good. All right. People are coming from all on the right side. Anybody side? Anyone wants to argue for free basics? You want to argue for? Okay, all right, come on up.
So I believe that I find free basics very justifiable and valid in the sense that it's going to offer developing countries it's going to offer boundless worlds of knowledge and internet connectivity to developing countries such as India, where a demographic population of 1.25 billion people only have like 50% of the internet access, and by offering this internet connectivity would definitely increase this kind of power through knowledge. And as Mark Zuckerberg said, internet connectivity is a human right. It shouldn't be a privilege that is given only to the rich and the elite. So I believe that free basics such as Facebook Free Basic, Wikipedia, and Google should be allowed.
Okay, all right. All right, one more. Come on up. Okay, be ready on the left side. Or, anybody who wants to argue for free basics.
Good afternoon. I think free basic is like economic discrimination. Like as per like Mr. Shikar from India, he said that net basic is too poor for poor people, and I think like it's like just giving a cheap painkiller for a sick person, like. So it's better. There are so many good medicines in pharmacy they can give, but they are only giving a painkiller for a while. but in long term, it's very like.
Okay, good. So you want the companies to reduce profits and use the money to provide better connection. All right. Yes. Sorry, we'll just take the one nearer just to save time. All right, the last one here.
Regarding the previous comment, I don't think free basics is that discriminatory because different from medicine, these people need to gain a profit from what they're doing. I guess Facebook nowadays uses ads to gain profit and all that thing, but their purpose is not to cure people or it's not for the good of the people, but it's more for the profit.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. And I'll upload more information about Freedom of Information Act and open data. All right. So please do the reading, and I'll put up some videos. Watch the videos, and have a good weekend. Thank you.